Hey guys, what's going on? I hope everybody's having a fantastic day, whether you're watching this in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. Today I wanted to take a little bit of time and walk through my current Spyderco collection and the current state of my Spyderco collection. This is the first Spyderco that came into, and one of the first nicer knives that came into my collection when I started collecting knives again around COVID. This is the British Racing Green FRN Spyderco Dragonfly 2 in ZDP 189 steel. One thing that I love about Spydercos, besides the fact that they make so many different styles, so many different shapes, they're all very utilitarian. They all have very good ergonomics, the ones that I have in my collection, and they utilize some of the best and most versatile blade steels with fantastic heat treats to give you a lot of different choices when you're picking out your knives. So the Spyderco Dragonfly 2 was again my first Spyderco. It is a backlock. It is ZDP 189. It is a little hard to flick, but I can flick it. It's just not one that I can flick very reliably. Like there, I underflicked it. But that is the Spyderco Dragonfly 2 in ZDP 189. Great little knife. I keep it in my one of my small little pack bags, just as a small knife to keep in there. And this thing, guys, is slicey and thin behind the edge. So the first Spyderco in my collection that came in was the Dragonfly 2. After that, I had been watching and consuming YouTube videos and content, and the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 became a knife to have. If you were a new collector, at least that's the way I interpreted it. This knife started out as the Blurple S10, S110V Spyderco Paramilitary 2. I then did some upgrades on it and checked out the Rips Garage Tech Python micarta scales. Got a Lynch deep carry clip and got some bronze colored or copper colored hardware to match the scales, and then turned this PM2 kind of into a palette, or if you will. The PM2, which I have several of, is probably my favorite Spyderco, and overall the way it fits my hand, the way I can choke up on it, the way I can take advantage of many different grips, the way that the blade is long and aggressive, but also thin and slicey. This works both as a tactical defense knife, as an EDC carry knife. It's really a knife that can get a lot of different chores and tasks done. This one again is an S110V, super hard steel. I didn't know what I was getting into when I got it. Luckily, I haven't had to sharpen it yet. I do have some Atomi plates, would be able to sharpen it, but use it enough to where it's held its edge just fine. So that was the second Spyderco in my collection, and at the time, the most expensive knife in my collection after I got this Blurple PM2. I want to say at the time, these were running about 185 bucks, but that is the Spyderco Blurple PM2. After that, again, I was back into the knife hobby. I was watching a lot of my content creators like Kevin, like Jared, like MC, people who were talking about knives, Nick Shabazz, our friend Slicey Dicey. And one that really got my attention was the Spyderco Smock. The Spyderco Smock, as you guys know, is one of the Taichung, Taiwan Spydercos. The blade steel, I want to say, is S30V. This knife is designed by Smock. It had those G10 carbon fiber handles with the speed holes. I changed those to these Raylite basket weave titanium scales, and then just added the Lynch deep carry clip. This knife utilizes a little bit of a button lock, which is kind of like a left-handed compression lock with a button. It's a multiple deployment knife. It did come with 2 detent balls, which made it very unique. The first detent would catch the knife when you were shutting it, so it wouldn't drop uncontrollably. It would just have more of a controlled drop. But when you could remove, and I learned this from YouTube videos too, but if you remove that secondary detent in the spring, which I have in my Spyderco box in case I ever sell this knife, which I won't, and somebody wants to put that detent ball back in, you can definitely do that. But this is a super fidgety knife. It is a deep hollow grind on this interesting reverse Tanto sheep's foot kind of blade. Very neutral handle, fits my hand great, carries great. Again, as a fidgeter's knife, it does have this flipper tab. One thing a little odd about the flipper tab is it doesn't have any jimping on it. It's a little slick. It's a little odd. I don't know why they didn't choose to put jimping there. I, again, use the finger hole, the thumb hole to deploy it. You could also just use the button to deploy it. But that is the Spyderco Smock. That was the 3rd Spyderco in my collection. One of my faves, and I just think it's a great knife. I can highly recommend this knife when you find them in stock. After that, I went to my local St. Nick's Knives Company and was browsing some Spydercos there and came across this Ikushi that I'd seen a couple of videos on. This is a unique little Spyderco because when it's closed, you do have a hole, but it actually goes through the handle there. It also has this little tab, this little rotating wheel flipper tab that actually deploys the knife. So when you pull back on that, it gives you this little trailing point, slim, gentleman's carry, very slicey, very pokey splinter remover. There's your blade hole. It is a compression lock. And it does have this little wheel to deploy the knife, which I thought was really cool. This is an S30V. This is another one of the Spydercos that come from the Taichung, Taiwan plant. They do fantastic work over there. This is reminiscent of that G10 carbon fiber handle that I replaced on the Smock. I've replaced it on a couple of other knives. But it is an interesting little knife. Is it one that I carry all the time that gets a ton of use? No. It's more of a kind of a novelty, carry it every now and then knife. Use it when I'm cutting foam for some of my knife cases. This is great for getting in and cutting foam. So yeah, the Spyderco Ikushi, a very unique little knife. Totally different deployment method of any other knife that I've seen. And very refined in terms of the blade, sits completely in the handle. Just a neat little knife with a wire clip. And that is the Spyderco Ikushi. After that, I'd been seeing all the videos about the Spyderco Yojimbo 2. The Yojimbo 2 is the knife that I always found very attractive. I loved the way that the blade shape looked. I even like the G10 handles. I did upgrade this knife, but for a long time it had its G10 handles. It has an S30V blade, deep hollow grind that comes down to a super slicey edge with splinter remover there. Nice blade stock, super ergonomical, and again, a self-defense knife. They have trainers for this knife. Again, I'm not the knife fight guy, but if I'm walking around somewhere late at night and I've got this in my pocket, I'll probably feel a little more comfortable than if I had my Spyderco Ikushi in my pocket. But the Spyderco Yojimbo 2 has the best detent of any Spyderco that I've had in my collection and any Spyderco that I've had in my hand. It's just different than all the other Spydercos. It really has a strong detent, which I like. These titanium scales are the Mayhem finish from Knives Plus, so they're smooth. And I've got some blue hardware here, blue clip from MX Gear. And It does make it a little trickier to deploy the knife because I don't have much grip here, but I love the detent. I love the size. I looked at a Yojimbo, and between all of us guys, it's just too big of a knife for me. I mean, I've got a medium large size hand, and the Yojimbo too fits me just perfectly. But again, this particular specimen is a US made, just like the Paramilitary 2 was. Golden, Colorado, USA, Earth. It's an S30V, and it is a very aggressive knife, probably the most aggressive Spyderco in my collection, and just a really cool knife. After that, I had been hunting a Shaman. Shamans were real hard to come by at the time. They weren't in stock in a lot of places. And then Cutlery Shop came out with an exclusive. And it was their Shaman that came with orange G10 scales. This particular one is I wasn't sure if it was crewware, but it's not, guys. It's CTS XHP. So this was the Cutlery Shop exclusive CTS XHP Shaman. I love CTS XHP. It's a great steel. I love the Shaman. I wasn't crazy about the orange scales, so I went to Sharp Dress Knives and hooked up some purple haze carbon fiber scales, fat carbon fiber scales. I love them. I love the blast on the actual blade. I love the fact that it's CTS XHP. I love the way the knife deploys. I love the way the knife fits in my hand. The Shaman is probably the workiest Spyderco I've got in my collection, the most robust that I would feel, whether I was camping or hiking, could get me through most of the adventures that I'm going to have to deal with. So the Shaman is also a Golden, Colorado, USA, Earth, domestically produced Spyderco. Just a fantastic specimen, and definitely one of my top 5 Spydercos. But that is the Shaman in CTS XHP. Moving on, we come to the second PM2 that I got into my collection from my brother from another mother, Keith the Knife Freak, who made this particular knife available for me to buy when he knew that I was looking for a Paramilitary 2 Tanto. I'm not exactly sure which generation of Tanto this is. It's got a deep, deep hollow grind, super sharp, compound grind, flat out at the tip. This is a Golden, Colorado, USA made knives, Planet Earth Spyderco. It is also an S30V, so I'm not sure which particular style this was. It wasn't the Blade HQ exclusive. It also has Alan Putman, nice, wavy micarta scales, a Lynch deep carry clip, and copper hardware to kind of set off and match more with those scales. What I love about the Paramilitary 2, as I told you earlier when we were looking at the S10V, is the way that it fits my hand. This knife fits my hand exactly the same way, but the blade could not be more different. It's a thicker blade. It's a much heavier blade. It is just different altogether. So again, this is a Golden, Colorado, USA, Planet Earth Spyderco. It was my second Paramilitary 2, and it is the Tanto version, and I like this knife very much. Moving on, I picked up another Taichung Taiwan knife. This is the Sage 5 with the compression lock, which is my favorite Spyderco lock if you haven't figured that out yet. But the Sage 5 is a very unique, smaller, light Spyderco with a very traditional leaf blade, tall flat grind, very, very slicey. And what we've learned about Spydercos is the grip's going to be perfect no matter how you hold it. This knife is a little bit smaller, but it's a gentleman's folder. It's thin, it's slicey. It comes from the Taichung Taiwan plant. It's an S30V. And the proceeds of this knife, or part of the proceeds, go to fund Alzheimer's. So when I picked this up, my dad suffers from dementia. I felt like I was doing my part to get another knife and contribute where I feel like more funds need to be spent. But that is the Sage 5 compression lock, Taichung, Taiwan, and another great little Spyderco. Moving on. Another wacky Spyderco. This is the Watu. The Watu is not as ergonomical as a lot of the Spydercos we've looked at in the past. As a matter of fact, it's very angular, but it still is unbelievably ergonomical when you put it in your hand. Even though it doesn't look like it would be comfortable, it is a comfortable little knife. This comes from the Taichung, Taiwan plant, as I just failed it. It is in S30V blade steel, tall flat grind here with their G10 carbon fiber handle. I have seen scales for these. I know my brother Pro X Bill might be able to make scales for this one day when he gets caught up. And I know that NAF had some scales that were really cool in Mexican Blanket Micarta. So I have seen scale sets for this. I just haven't done anything with it. But I do like the knife. I think it's super cool looking. It is, I think Mike Emler, my brother, said it was the ugliest knife he's seen. And I can see that. You know, it's just like you love it, you hate it. Beauty's subjective. And to me, this is just a unique little knife. Would it win a beauty contest? Probably not. Does it look like a cracked up penguin? A little bit. But does it cut? Does it carry well? Does the wire clip go in and out of pocket effortlessly? Is it a great little gentleman's carry? Light knife? Yeah, it is. And that is the Spyderco Watu, deepening into my Spyderco rabbit hole / collection. Moving on. One of my faves, the Spyderco Manix 2. This was the Knife Center exclusive in, I want to say, crew wear. Yep, CPM crew wear. I upgraded it with some, I always get this scale company jacked up. I'll think about that and name those scales here in just a second. But it does have black hardware, has a titanium ball lock, and the scales are the creature pattern from Rock Scale Designs. Okay, so Rock Scale Designs is probably one of the flyest scale makers out there. These scales are not only factory matched for the Manix 2, they allow you to do away with the very jimpy liners. A lot of people like those jimpy liners. Some people are looking for more of an EDC carry knife. So when I put these scales on and got rid of my Manix 2 liners, it really turned the Manix into a smooth, comfortable EDC knife that I get more use out of, and it's more comfortable for me to use now than it was when it had the jimpy liners on it. So that is the Rock Scale Designs adorned Manix 2 in crew wear with MX Gear clip, black hardware, and a titanium ball cage. It is also made in Golden, Colorado, USA, planet Earth, domestically produced, and just a great, great Spyderco. Moving on as we get close to finishing up here, our third Paramilitary 2. This was the Cutlery Shop exclusive Warrencliff that I was able and fortunate enough to be able to pick up on a trade from a good brother and his wonderful wife, Molly. Justin, OCD for EDC, and I put together a deal for this knife, and I'm very, very thankful of him for coming off of it and making it available to me. It is CTS XHP, again, one of my favorite steels. It's a Warrencliff. I love the look of the Warrencliff. Again, it's a Paramilitary 2, so we know that that means it's going to fit my hand in so many different grips. and not feel uncomfortable really in any grips. It does have the Lynch deep carry clip on it, and it does have another set of rock scale designs, titanium scales. Just a great knife. Golden, Colorado, USA, Earth. It was the Cutlery Shop exclusive, so I've got several Spyderco boxes with orange scales in them. One thing I love about Spyderco's, guys, is in a lot of them you can really do a lot to mod them and make them your own without having to be a modder. Basically just by adding scales, adding hardware, different stuff like that, you can personalize them. So I'm a PM2 guy. I've had a PM3. It didn't stay in my collection that long. For some reason, it's just not the same knife to me. I know it's a smaller PM2. A lot of people, and I've had conversations with people and debates about it, that the knife should be perfect for me. It just doesn't have the same feel. And we're all different, right? It's subjective. So I'm more of a PM2 guy than a PM3 guy. But one more Spyderco we'll look at after this in my collection, and it's the most recent Spyderco that came in my collection that's getting ready to have a review done on it after I use it a little bit more. But this was the Knife Joy exclusive, moving forward after breast cancer, pink G10, S45, little native, fantastic little compression lock knife that punches way above its weight. I mean, this little knife has, I can get a full 4 fingers on the grip. With the choil, I can get all the way up there on the blade. It's just a little bit bigger than the Dragonfly, but since it's got now RGT, Rips Garage Tech, micarta scales, or the G10 scales that were on it, make it a thicker knife than the Dragonfly, and actually just a knife that is a joy to carry, a joy to deploy. It is a USA-made specimen, Golden, Colorado, USA, Earth. I have a cat coming up to join us, who is now on the table. So that is our Spyderco Little Native with Rips Garage Tech micarta scales. Guys, the cat's starting to rub on the camera, so this video is about to be cut short. But that is a look into my Spyderco collection. Guys, please look out to the guy or girl to your left. Please look out for the guy or girl to your right. Look out for each other. Continue to love one another. Go forward with love in your heart. Choose debate over hate. I love you all. Peace.